This message is for someone that sent me a text message and email in regards to business credit. So I'm going to explain to you from my standpoint when a lot of people, again, I see the videos when they're talking about business credit. Before you could talk about business credit, before you could talk about a business profile, you probably need to understand the logistics and the way business credit works. So the way I want to explain it to you, whoever sent me the text message, is that when you're talking about business credit, the most thing I see that people do when they start a business is all they know is that they have an EIN number, or maybe they have an EIN number and a phone number. So this is what I would tell you. When you're thinking about business credit, imagine before you even think of a business name, imagine when two people get together, let's say a woman and a man gets together and they decide to have a child. And before they have the child, what do you think they do? They come up with the name, right? So when they come up with the name, at that point, you have incorporated your business, which means that's the entity. Once the child is born, that is the birthday of the child. Well, once the child is born, you receive a birth certificate. So once you do an LLC or incorporate a C Corp or S Corp, the birth certificate, or what they would call articles of incorporation, is for the business. Then you receive an EIN number, which is the social security number of the child. Okay. Now you have the age. So the age will be the birth date, the year you incorporated, or the year you had the child, which essentially is the same thing. So now you have to stand back and you have to look at the business and understand to just like you do a person. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, so now you have the articles of incorporation, you have the EIN number. Now you need um, your business license, you need your bank account, you need an address, and again, you have to think about it. You're trying to go to a bank and you're trying to get credit, so you got to look at it like a bank would do. Okay, so how would you have a business but yet you have an email that shows Gmail, or you have an email that shows at Yahoo, or whatever email you're using. So what you want to do is you need to have a commercial email address, you need to have a commercial phone number, you need to have a commercial address. Now you got to have to dress the business up just like you do a person. So in business credit, just like personal credit, you have someone that has a 630, or you have someone that has a FICO score of 700. So the way business credit work is you have a paydex score. So that paydex score could be 63. The paydex score could be 75. So a 75 paydex score is equivalent to a 750 FICO score. A 630 paydex score is equivalent to a 630 FICO score. And you just keep going down the line. Of course, in business credit, the max number will be is 100. Okay. So now you got to think about trade lines, like I mentioned before. So trade lines with a business, just like a person, number one, they have to be seasoned. And when I say seasoned, they have to have had time. They have to have put some skin in the game. So each trade line that's on your business you will have to have them making 6 payments, regardless if you have a bunch of money or anything like that that has nothing to do with it. So what you want to do is you go and you establish 4 trade lines for the business. No, you do not have to pay for those. That's not how that works. So just like anything else, it has to be seasoned. So when you put those 4 trade lines, what happens is it creates a score. And what it creates a score is each one of those companies that you're conducting business with, you have to have made a payment of maybe like $80. When you do that for 4 to 6 months, voila, now you have a payday score. You got to also remember that with a business, just like a person, you have a resume, as I said before. Okay, so a person has a resume, a business has a resume, and essentially it's called a financial statement. So the financial statement at the same time is going to outline the value of the business. It's going to outline what you have as a business. It's going to outline your assets. It's going to outline credit cards or creditors and things that you pay. It's also going to have an introduction, just like a resume. So what did the introduction will say? The introduction is going to say, when was the business started? How many people you have? What kind of business do you run? Those type of things you have to look at, just like a bank will look at. So you can't go in trying to get or accumulate, a bank loan and your stuff is not right. And so you got to stand back and you got to kind of think how banks think. Second of all, you got to have taxes. That's the biggest thing I see is that people have taxes, but what do? A lot of times people have taxes. They claim they make all this money, but when you start looking at how much money they make, or you start looking at the AGI, your business said that you made 100 grand, or either your personal taxes say you made 100 grand, but yet your AGI on your taxes is saying you only made $8,000. So who's going to give you a loan? No one's going to give you a loan. Doesn't make sense. You have to again look at it the same way that they do. So if you want to borrow money, you got to think about these things, especially for a mortgage. And I can tell you that if you want to borrow money for a mortgage, you can't go in saying, "Well, I make 100,000 and run my own business." Okay, but where's the money at? Because your AGI is only saying that your AGI is only saying that you're only making like $8,000. That's at least that's what you're claiming. They're not going to give you a loan. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm going to put that out there. But you want to reverse the fact that a lot of people, especially in certain communities, what we want to do is we want to lower the AGI. And we lower the AGI because what? The government promises us that they're going to give us an EIC or credit or whatever it is. But yet at the same time, you can't buy anything because the numbers are not there. So you got to remember numbers don't lie, numbers are facts. One plus one is always going to be two, no matter where we live at. So you're going to have to look and see, just like they're going to have to see. They have a formula that they use. They're going to take that AGI number. When they take that AGI number, that number is used by a formula. I'm just going to say, my point of view, that formula is used by the number 15 or the number 20. So the number 15 or the number 20 is basically saying how much the bank will give you is roughly about 100 grand. Every 100 grand that you borrow for a mortgage, same thing for a business, it all works the same. Numbers don't lie. You're probably looking at about maybe $700, $800, somewhere around in there. But as far as the business credit go, again, you have to stand back and look at you have to look at your formation. Your formation has to be right. That's why I'm explaining it the way I am, so it can make sense to you. If your formation is right, you're not going to have any problems. You don't want someone to look at your file or look at your business file and you don't have a lot of things. You don't have a website. You don't have a domain name. You don't have, like a bio of the business. You don't have your, what is it? You don't have uh, an address. There's a lot of different variations that go into that. So, um, a lot of times, like I said, I get the calls, I get the emails, but that's the problem that I see is that a lot of times people, they go on the internet, they go on these YouTube channels, and it's not to be funny, but a lot of these people are not really giving you the right information. And I'm just going to say it like that. They're giving you bits and pieces of information because number one, they want you to spend money. And money, if they real about what they do, money is not going to define their performance. That means that they are able to help you without charging you in the sense to where they can direct you into the right direction. And instead of you get a business and you get an EIN number and you think, okay, well now I can go get and I can go borrow money. No, because you don't have all the criteria that the bank is looking for. And so sometimes, like I said, you have to stand back and you have to question yourself, and either you can go and you can find out. Each bank obviously, um, has different criteria. Some banks are looking for assets. A lot of times I see these videos. They're saying, "Oh, well, you can have a FICO score, or you can have a paydex score, and you've been in business for 2 years." And I can tell you from experience, that's not true. There's a lot of more. There's a lot of other things they're not telling you. So you have to obviously do your homework, and I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that because I can just keep going on and on and on.